How's it going, everybody? So we are about halfway through the month of June and halfway through the year of 2018. And let me tell you something, 2018 has probably been a pretty disappointing year, if I'm going to be completely honest, for a lot of people who had unrealistic expectations regarding cryptocurrency. Now, I'm not ruling out anything to do with the space altogether. I'm involved with it. I'm looking forward to seeing some big things happening in the future. And but of course, of course, everybody who watched what happened at the end of 2017 might have had some crazy expectations. I mean, who wouldn't? When we all watched the value rise, but then we became equally as critical of the space, seeing it moving downward, and then of course where we are today. Now, this is it's all about your perspective. At the end of the day, it really all depends about what you know. See, people who chose to buy at the lowest point, and I assure you people did, are now pretty happy because, well, things are looking up a little bit. Not too much, but there's always winners and there's always losers in this space, and it's happening on an international scale. And obviously, digital currencies are a big part due to things that you can't control. It's intangible. And it's, that's a word that really gets thrown around a lot, but at the end of the day, it can be very stressful for people who think that it's just going to Lambo right away. And of course, it's not unprecedented. It has happened before, and I would say that the potential is there. I mean, this was a Lambo moment in and of itself. So it just is all about how where you position yourself. So that's why it's important. In this content, we're just going to go down the list and basically review these technologies. And I think that Litecoin at $96. I mean, is anybody really going to go into a Dunkin' Donuts and buy a coffee using a Litecoin? That's all I'm going to say about that one. But it's going to be the technologies that are really doing things in the real world and active and changing the way that some function in some level of human interaction and optimizing it or reimagining it. It's these technologies that are ultimately going to be performing, in my personal opinion. I would say that we're just going to go over a list, of course, and we're basically going to be going into detail regarding the potential for some of these technologies to have some really significant gains in the aftermath of what we've seen happen regarding the recent cryptocurrency market corrections. Now, we've recovered a little bit from the worst of it, but of course we're not entirely out of the woods yet, and there still could be a very bumpy road ahead of us. So it's important to take into consideration the fundamental fact that not everybody's been involved with cryptos for the same amount of time, and those of us who've been involved for any amount of years can say that this is not uncommon. Of course, there's always a lot of volatility in the cryptocurrency space, and one thing's for certain, and there's really a fundamental indicator that there's a lot of information that you can gather from seeing the technologies that recover the fastest after a huge hit to the whole market, and seeing technologies like Cardano at 4% in the green this early in the game following the aftermath of these situations. And we're not entirely out of the woods yet, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's still a lot of things need to come together, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are sweating a lot of different variables as they've come together in this short amount of time. And I look at the list of technologies as it goes on, and I still maintain a positive perspective. Obviously there's going to be exchanges that get hacked, and we're not going to be without all the various different drawbacks that come together. But of course, so we've basically made this list here of just the top cryptos in no particular order, which I'm definitely excited to be seeing where they go in the context of the next couple of years, as we see the market recovering from these dynamics and moving forward and seeing what's next. So number one on the list, of course, is Ripple. Now I understand, I've talked about Ripple plenty of times on here, and we all understand that Ripple has haters. We understand that people have questions about how the establishment's going to be getting involved in all these certain different variables. But one fundamental analysis that I have is over time I could see Bitcoin losing dominance, and I could say with a full confidence that there is potential for one of these technologies that has more of the establishment behind it than sort of, but of course the issue of decentralization comes to mind, and of course there is a lot of different variables but of course Ripple is really one of those technologies that's interesting to pay attention to in the overall context of the space and how we've been seeing things develop up until this point. So yeah, I definitely recommend doing some research in regards to Ripple, and I don't know if this is some new branding, but I like it. And so number two on the list is of course Nucleus Vision. And you know, when it comes to Nucleus Vision, it's really, we've talked about this one as well, the potential that's in store for the Internet of Things, as we see the more and more people all around the world are getting smartphones, and we're witnessing a real unprecedented paradigm shift that's happening in a lot of ways. And what I've talked about before is the fact that one space that's definitely in need for a overhaul is retail, and Nucleus Vision is really positioning themselves in a key strategic place when it comes to retail. And you know, we could see it on the news right now. All these old retail outlets are going out of business. These household names crumbling before our eyes, as we see the rise of technology offerings like Amazon and a multitude of others. But I don't think that retail is going to completely come to an end. I think that it's due for a reinvention. I think that that's a big opportunity, and Nucleus Vision is really one of those technologies that's leveraging the potential that's made available in the greater aspect of these things as we've been seeing them develop and move forward. So I'm certainly interested in seeing the potential that happens as we see Nucleus Vision you know, expanding in front of us. And you know, it's one of those interesting technologies overall. And I would say that there's a lot of things that are going to change in the light of new technologies being introduced to the public. And one of those fundamental things is the fact that data and the public consciousness regarding data is in need of is really in need of a shift as well, because the public is becoming more data conscious, and I think Nucleus Vision is aware of that to a large extent, and they're definitely leveraging their presence in the overall space. And I think that this sort of way of approaching the membership program is certainly, it's going to lead to interesting feedback as we move across and we see the various different developments that are happening involving cryptocurrency. And of course, everything on the top 100 is due to have some significant changes to it as things continue to move forward. But number three on the list, moving right along, is Cardano, of course. Really, I should have put this as number one on the list, but like I said, it's in no particular order. It's just but Cardano, of course, with smart contracts. We've spoken about how Bitcoin was, of course, the introduction to digital currency in the public consciousness context, and we saw like everybody and their grandmother aware of Bitcoin, and of course it was big. But I think that certainly, and then of course Ethereum with smart contracts. But I think Cardano really is positioning itself in a way that's going to allow it to do everything that it's setting out to do and more. If you really pay attention to the team that's working on Cardano, I think that it's going places. And yeah, overall, I would say that Cardano is really one of those interesting technologies from a data perspective. And I would recommend people do more research into this one, because I think it's one of the most misunderstood technologies from people who really just glaze over crypto and don't necessarily do their research. But and that being said, of course, remember, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for entertainment, educational purposes only, and the whole purpose of this content is just to share my perspective, my opinion regarding these technologies. And just remember, I'm not your dad. This is not financial advice. Basically, take my opinion for what it's worth. And take every YouTuber's opinion for what it's worth. You should always get your information from more authoritative sources. But all that being said, I mean, looking at Tron, Tron is definitely an interesting one. I think decentralized media really does have an interesting future as things move forward. We've spoken for Tron, and I think it definitely sort of speaks for itself. And then, of course, Monero up right now, 4%. Impressive in its own right. And of course, privacy technology is definitely going to be very important as we move forward. You can understand the self-defined, it's self-explanatory really when it comes to why privacy is going to be big. And I think Monero is really strategically positioned right in the center of that. And as we move forward, and especially all these different variables, it's an interesting technology. And then of course, I'm putting Neo on the list as well, because I would say that China is going to be a big player. They already very much are a big player when it comes to the technological aspect of society, and I think that it's only going to grow. And the Neo smart economy, and of course things like deep brain chain, really going to produce some interesting results as we move forward. But all that being said, that's the list, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed this content. And yeah, I mean, just paying attention to the overall trends as things have been moving forward. I know that people don't necessarily have the highest of expectations right now, but it'll pass. There's always going to be people having all sorts of different opinions regarding these technologies. So this is just a simple list of the top 5 that I'm paying attention to, especially in the context of what we've been seeing, and all these different variables. And I just want to thank everybody who supported the channel up till this point. And if you guys are interested, you can always follow us on our official Twitter, and of course the link to that will be in the description. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this content. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.